Okay, so should be recording. This is the October meeting of the Texas DX Society. Here's our agenda. Well, welcome to all of you guys, particularly George. I don't think I've chatted with you face-to-face before. We'll have a short report from our officers, and we'll have a discussion about our 50th anniversary wrap-up. And Orville's put together some statistics for us. We have some information. I don't see Keith, but we need to make a plan to on the Texas QSO party for particularly for 2021. So if Keith doesn't show up, I'll put together a plan about the transition, and I'll send it to him and the rest of you guys and see if we can get something started. One thing I was asked about was some questions for Kim. So on his presentation last month of how much data can you afford to lose, have a little QA session, which you will talk directly to Kim. And then we want to talk about 2020 for a few minutes. The calendar, which I've already sent out to you guys. I'll talk a little bit about where all that stands. Programs and events and other activities, talk a little bit about ideas for those. And we still need some additional officers nominated because next month is the election. And then we should adjourn at that point unless someone else has anything. Okay, so George, welcome. Like I said, I really appreciate the effort. I think I worked you a time or two. That was good. Officers, do you have anybody have anything they'd like to put on the table for this evening?
Send me more articles for the bullshit. Everybody, anybody, come on.
Yep, it's good. It's the right thing to do. And I know we've talked about this before, but biographies are kind of interesting. And
I never get any from anybody.
I know it's been a couple. I mean, we wrote some in the past, but we haven't had any recently. So any of you guys out there, take a few minutes and help us out on that.
Send me your biography, even if you're ashamed of it. Send it to me so I can put it in there. I don't care. Nobody will care.
As long as you promise to embellish it.
I don't care.
The more salacious, the better.
I can edit it too, you know.
Yep.
You know, I'm the CNN of bullshit. So
you make it up, huh?
Okay.
CNN.
So anything else?
Nothing from the secretary.
Nothing from the treasurer.
Okay. We still got lots of money, right?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, there's been like zero activity.
yeah, we should find something to spend it on.
Okay, thanks, Larry. That's good. Okay, so let's talk about our operating activity. Was really an interesting. There's Keith. Was really an interesting month for a lot of us. I had a lot of fun and did a lot to try to encourage people to participate. So I have this statistics I think I will try to share here. Share my screen. Here we go. Okay, so can everyone see this?
Yes.
Okay, so this is from Orville. This was as of late this afternoon, I don't know, 4 o'clock or so. Here are the call signs of the people that he has received logs from with the number of QSOs that they had in the log submitted to Orville. So you can see we had 25 and we're at just under 7,500 QSOs, which is a little surprising. I didn't think we would end up with that many, but I'm tickled to think that we did. We still have several logs, believe we have several logs outstanding. And Orville has made an attempt to contact a couple of those guys. So in the next few days, hopefully we'll get the logs we'll get logs in, and we should have, hopefully by the time the bull sheet, write articles for the bull sheet, hopefully we'll have enough to kind of do a summary of this activity. So what you guys think?
Very good.
Good job.
So we had people who spent a lot of time and a lot of effort, and we had some that spent relatively speaking, a smaller amount of time. That was great. We got several guys that were kind of I don't know, the only word that comes to mind is dormant, but WA5LDE. I mean, I haven't talked to him in a while, but he was on. K5HEM Hal put out some effort. So, it's all good. And Orville, can you comment on how many on our QSL cards?
We've got at this point in time a little bit over 110. I haven't checked the mailbox today, but I have not received anything from the post office regarding the status of the cards coming in from the Ukraine. The last thing was a posting on the 17th, I believe it was, from some obscure post office in the Ukraine where it had been, had gone through them. But there were 2 or 3 in Kiev where it, if I were guessing, I would say it's somewhere en route. It was sent priority mail. So Kennedy was trying to do everything he could to get them here as quick as he could.
Okay.
Well, I have to say kudos to Alan and George. Outstanding achievements. And I'm really hacked that, Roby, you beat me by 13 Qs. If I'd have known at the time, I'd have made a bigger effort.
So I was kind of watching. I was trying to keep up with you. So I guess just by sheer luck, I won out. So.
That's close.
Actually, I kept all this pretty well under control and under the hat. So no one would really know who was doing what to who.
How did the sign-up sheet work out? I was always worried that I was doubling up with somebody. But was there any concerns about the sign-up sheet?
There was a few conflicts here and there, and a couple of times, some people, me included, either went over our allotted time or didn't pay attention, and probably had 2 similar type signals on the same band, and that causes a little bit of confusion on FT8. But I'm guilty too. I did it myself, so but for the most part, it worked pretty well. I mean, most people stayed to their band plans, and later on, when people were getting on and getting off, they indicated that. And as you know, George, in one case, we shared a slot, so it all worked out pretty good.
Yeah, good. Just a comment about the layout of the sheet. I had it on my right-hand monitor. I just kept it up there to make sure I was not stepping on anybody else.
Yeah.
But the cells were so large, and the font in the cells was tiny, which caused the whole sheet to be way bigger than my 24-inch monitor. So I found that to be kind of difficult to manage. If the sheet were physically smaller, it would have been much easier.
I'll keep that in mind for K5DX stroke 100.
Or any other time we use something like this spreadsheet for field day or for whatever, right? I mean, it's that's good feedback. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I use it for field day every year, except for this year, of course. But next year I'll use it, and maybe I'll increase the font size, and decrease the cell height.
Yeah,
Maybe
the
I
cell
can do
height
that.
and the cell width was way wider than it needed to be. That's what kept it overlapping on the side.
Mm.
The other confusing thing, which is no fault of the sheet, but is the fact that the day starts at 8 o'clock at night the night before. So I found that always to be tricky. I had a hard time wrapping my head around that when I was first starting the operation.
Yeah, I think it was you that sent me a comment about that, but it was somebody did, but it's too late to change it. I mean,
Well, no, it's fine. Yeah.
Alan,
And then, of course, I had to always adjust myself for East Coast time, which I ultimately got used to.
yeah.
Being as old as I am, I had trouble with those kinds of details.
the hello, yeah, not talking.
I hear
Yeah,
you.
we hear you.
Go
We
ahead.
hear you,
Oh,
Rick.
okay. All right. It's okay. My comment was that when I scrolled to the right to get to the higher frequency bands, the times scrolled off to the left.
Yeah.
So needed to kind of,
Hmm.
if there was a way to lock the times when you scroll, that'd be cool.
You
Yeah,
know,
can
in
definitely lock the
Excel,
column.
in Excel, you can lock both columns and rows, but in Sheets, you cannot. I tried that.
Okay.
You can only do one or the other. And I had at one time the time on both sides, and somebody said, "Oh, we don't need that." So I took the time off the right side. But
Yeah. Oh well, you tried, and what can you say?
that's actually I got that whole idea from W1AW stroke whatever they had, 100 or whatever they had a deal where members could sign up to operate.
Yeah, I think
And
that
so
was
I contacted the guy that did the sign up sheet for that, and he told me what he did. I think he may have sent me an example, and so I've patterned this kind of off of what he did back then.
well, I thought it worked out real well. So thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think overall it was pretty good. I didn't have too much difficulty navigating it, and like you, I ran into a couple of times where I planned to work a specific frequency, and there was already K5DX stroke 50 on, so I just picked another frequency and changed the sheet and went on about my business. Right, it didn't really make that much difference to me. It was pretty interesting though.
Was there a way to put more than one line within a cell?
Yeah, you can do that.
You can, yeah, just Alt Enter.
Alt enter, okay.
Yeah, some of the guys put some other comments in there, I noticed, in their cells.
Yeah, like off at a certain time, or I even put on at a certain time because I wasn't going to get on at the beginning of that 4-hour slot. So, in any case,
Yeah.
it worked.
My only comment would be to cut it down to a 2-hour slot for some of the older guys that need to get up and walk around the chair.
Well, then we would have only had 12,000 slots available, so we had 6,400 and something slots available, by the way, overall. But I don't know. We talked about how long to make the slots, and I don't know. I guess we settled on 4 hours. I guess I could have made it 2 hours. It would have been really crowded, though.
I think generally for multi operations, the contest stations tend to run operators in 4-hour slots. So I never even rethought it, about the 4-hour slot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was one of the ones that was vocal about the original 24 hours, and that was bought very quickly. One thing that I did, of course, I only have 135 queues. I couldn't operate like the last 2 weeks. But on the sheet, the reservation sheet, spreadsheet, if I logged into a time and the band was completely dead and I just gave up, I removed my name because I didn't want, in case the band opened up, I didn't want somebody else to think I was out there somewhere. Now, if I made one cue, then I left it in. Then I think what I did, might have done it. No, I saw the idea of off at such and such. The off at such and such is a good thing, because then you record the fact that you indeed were there. And I didn't do that, but I did remove my name if I had no cues, and there was still time left in the slot.
That's fine.
That's a good point.
I made some comments about the operating, the band conditions and so forth. I was really pretty much only on CW. But ultimately the bands ran out. So then I started running them on sideband, and I had some incredible runs on 20 sideband.
Yeah.
Just 150, 200 an hour.
Yeah.
all and a lot of, and it was stay up in the general band. So you're just getting everybody, which was a lot of fun. But what I found that the CW bands just become like desert wastelands.
I know.
And I think, as I've always said, this FT8 just sucks the oxygen out of those bands.
It does.
But anyway, it was fun. What I found myself doing was moving bands. If nobody else had taken like 30, 20, and 10 meters, I'd alternate between those, and I'd put my call sign in there because nobody else had them, and I'd pick up a few that way.
Well,
But it took a lot of just kind of dancing around the bands to just find anything to work after a while. And I was only on of the month. I was off for 2 weeks. We had to go up to Kentucky for a couple of weeks, so I was QRT for 2 weeks.
Hey, Roby, can you go back to the pictures?
The pictures.
Yeah, the thumbnails of everybody instead of, if we're not going to talk about this specifically.
Okay, let's see. Stop sharing.
well,
There you
quite frankly, I thought there would be a whole lot more demand. I thought there'd be a whole lot more participation from TDXS members. That was my very big disappointment at the lack of participation and the lack of interest by TDXS members to operate this once in a lifetime celebration. But
Yeah, Alan, you and I talked about that a couple of times.
Yep. What can you do? I thought there'd be a whole lot more demand for slots, and I thought, making these reservations for slots would be a lot more important than I guess it turned out to be. But it was still turned out to be a good tool.
It was a good tool. I tried to contact a number of people and encourage them to, to get on even for a few minutes, and some did and some didn't. But,
Yeah.
all of us have a variety of things pulling at our time, and, we just didn't have that much activity from one point of view. But again, 7,500 is a fair amount of QSOs too. So the ones who did operate, I may think on average, put in a little bit of time, and that made the difference.
I talked to Bud AA3B. He said you guys were everywhere.
Okay.
But then Bud's everywhere.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Well, it'd be interesting to know how many duplicates we've got of different bands, different operators. See if we've worked the same station multiple times, or how many uniques we had.
That'd be interesting.
I think the guy, maybe other than Bud, the other guy that I think I worked way more than Bud, VE3 VIC. VE3 VIC. I don't know who he is. I guess his name is Vic. But I noticed he was in my log of maybe
I don't think I worked him at all.
Yeah, I seem to remember working
CW
him also.
Yeah.
I had.
I worked about 5 CWTs, so I put it. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I had a comment from a guy in California who I can't remember his call to save me at this point, but apparently he knew Sharp. He's a TDXS member. I looked it up, and I haven't, one of those guys I've never met or never heard from, but he recognized the call sign and sent me a very brief email about it. So that was kind of interesting. I think we got one of the things we wanted to accomplish was to get the TDXS name out there a little bit, and I think we were pretty successful at doing that. So thinking overall it's was a good operation. Definitely could be improved, but I think we got a lot done.
Could you make that last point again? You got
Yeah,
cut out.
you're dropping out, Roby. Your audio's dropping.
Sorry. I've got the highly reliable Comcast internet, so.
Yeah, well, I had them come out here today, and I had to direct the guy to tell him what was wrong.
A question on the operating. Is there any, can we legally operate two of the same call letters on the same band mode at the same time? I know we can, different, same band, different modes, et cetera, but is it okay? I don't know, it happened here and no one's going to go to Leavenworth for it, but is it okay to operate, other than confusion, is it okay to operate two of the same band?
I don't see any problem with it at all.
So, okay.
Yeah, okay, I wasn't challenging, I was just simply inquiring.
You know, you can't do it in contests, but they make up their own rules.
You know, someone mentioned duped. I felt like I may have lost out on quite a few cues because I did not. I did not. I only called CQ. So there's lots of folks out there that were calling CQ, and I did not respond. And I was concerned about getting, getting chewed out for duplicating.
Look, I just like in a contest. Somebody calls me, I work them, even if I know it's a dupe. I don't care. It's quicker to work a dupe, especially in a contest, than it is to tell them they're a dupe. Yeah. And so I had about 50 or 60, and even though the N1MM results window didn't show all my dupes, I knew they were there. And it's no big deal.
Well, I didn't want to, during search and pouncing, I didn't want to end up as a dupe for a lot of other people. Not knowing, because, no one had access to the total.
Right. Yeah, well.
I think it comes down to the number of cues, regardless of you could have 500 dupes, so it's still the number of cues you made.
Yeah.
I have.
I wouldn't mind having the dupes. That wouldn't give me any pause, but it could cause some grief for other people. If I responded to CQs, they're not calling me, they're calling CQ.
Well, I don't see anywhere in the events extensive rules that we can't do that.
Right. Yeah. I had a question for Orville. Do you have any idea what percentage of, relative percentage of the 7,500 have been confirmed in Logbook of the World?
No.
Okay. I mean, like
in 10 words or less, but I did take a look at it about a week ago, and we were running somewhere on the order of 60% confirmation.
Okay, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah. And we
and
have
there it's
Oops.
Orville.
Go ahead. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Hey, Orville, do we know the number of DXCC entities yet?
Give me 30 seconds.
That's going to be an exercise to get those.
Well, if you go,
they're in AC log. They're in AC log, and he can tell AC log to.
So I looked on LOTW.
Oh, yeah.
I looked on LOTW earlier this afternoon, and we had confirmed approximately 85 countries and 32 zones, 32 CQ zones.
Nice.
Yeah, at this point in time, we have worked 111 countries. But that's worked. That's not confirmed.
Nice. So maybe you'll be able to get a K5DX stroke 50 DXCC certificate.
Yeah, maybe.
It's
And
possible.
worked all states.
Money in the treasury.
Yeah, the worked all states is a lead cinch. We've got that both modes. Worked in just QSL received. The number of countries that we have confirmed at this point in time is 85. And that should not be any problem to pick it up. I have only received probably less than 10 QSLs from outside the country. And I'm sure it's going to just, it's time in the mail is a problem.
It's on its way.
Yeah, there's 100 more countries that just don't have mail at all now.
Wow.
Just none.
We did get a, I got a QSL request from a KB7 in Idaho. And he sent an email with a file of his QSO with us. And he was extremely happy because K5DX was his first Texas contact. So I sent him an email back confirming verbally, because he was in the log. I believe K5GN worked him. But he was all excited, boy, that he worked at that first Texas.
Well, it is in a whole nother country, so.
Well, you have to remember, I mean, for all of us at one time, that was a new state was a really big deal. So, you know, it's the same song, the next verse of the same song, but it's important. That's why it makes a difference.
I saw a request from someone or a comment from someone who was very excited because he worked K5DX for the first time on his new antenna.
And so he says, well, how does my audio sound? It says my biz wires are down. How does my audio?
Okay, that's pretty cool. So what else? I would so should we consider doing something like this again? Not necessarily wait 50 years, but I mean this sort of operating event. I mean, would there be of some interest for some other kind of activity? Not necessarily a month. You know, maybe a one band. What?
I'd love to.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun to do something if we can pick a valid, a reasonable event, situation, condition, whatever. Something other than I survived the thunderstorm of Thursday.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So
we could wait for the next hurricane.
I think in the interest of keeping the bands alive, especially the CW bands, which have just died, anything the club could do would be wonderful. And there are people that just love to work these special event stations, especially the Europeans. That's where I found my best activity, other than 20 sideband, was among the Europeans. They just clamored to get the special event station.
Well, we need more advertising before the next one.
And the other thing you can do with special event call signs, and we've done it here in Florida, is do what they call spelling bees, where you have like, we've done sunshine and we've done orange juice and things like that with a special event single letter call signs that spell out those words.
I had a comment about the call sign. K5DX/50 is a non-standard call sign as far as FT8 is concerned. And it caused we had a discussion about this the other night, Alan, but if you tried to contact like MM100 TDXS, WSJT didn't like it because that's two non-standard call signs, and you could waste a bunch of time. So if we do something, the call sign needs to be something that works better with FT8.
Yeah, that's the point. One
I
thing
guess, but I just didn't send my grid, and so
Yeah, it does.
I never had a problem.
I did. I had several where, like I say, it was stations that are not a prefix and a number and letters, where they're some other kind of weird call sign, and it gets all confused.
Yeah, well, that's a known issue with non-standard call signs in WSJTX. I tell you that up front. It's a problem.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And,
so one comment I'd make about that is I did some just some observations. When I operate FT8, I use PSK Reporter, and I would look for K5DX to see how many stations were decoding K5DX/50, and I got very few compared to what I normally see. And then I would stop using K5DX/50 and switch over to AJ4F, and the states would be covered with stations decoding me, but the K5DX/50 was not seen that often, even though I was making quite a few contacts. So so there's something else about that call sign that created some issue. Perhaps it's an issue in PSK Reporter or something like that. But I just found that to be kind of interesting.
it would be, I mean, we could still try it, but it'd be interesting to see if it's the ones that were decoding were indeed WSJTX, and other people are using whatever the other, the variants are.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Yes. I had a similar experience on FT8 and on PSK Reporter. Instead of searching for K5DX/50, I just searched for K5DX, and I saw a lot more hits come back.
Okay, I didn't try that. That's good to know.
Of course, we'll never use K5DX/50 again.
Stroke 51.
Yeah.
The DX clusters don't recognize stroke 50 either. They give you a stroke 5.
No, they don't. It worked. I didn't have any trouble.
Didn't for me. I was self-spotting myself, and it probably went out as a 50. But if any of the skimmers picked me up, it was always stroke 5.
Skimmer, I can't speak for, but the clusters always showed stroke 50.
Yeah, these were definitely skimmer spots. I had an interesting situation. You remember this operation where you would send stay home, STAYHOME?
I didn't.
Put on. Well, I was doing that as K5KG stroke STAYHOME, which is a horrible call sign, especially in code. And I was being spotted as K5KG stroke SH. And about halfway through it, Frank Donovan called me on the telephone. Frank Donovan never calls me. And he said, "Are you signing stroke SH?" And I said, "No, I'm signing stroke or ST, stroke ST." He says,
ST.
And he said, "That would be illegal." And I said, No. I'm signing stay home. And he said, "Well, then it's a skimmer problem." So you know what, at that point, I pulled the switch. I didn't do any more.
Did you get a whole lot of calls when you were stroke ST?
I guess I did.
Yeah, I bet.
Okay, cool.
Then I got to wondering how Frank Donovan would even know my phone number, but then I guess he works for places where you can get those kind of information.
If we were
Maybe
leaving
he's
this
CIA.
topic, one thing
Dark
we might
web.
want to think about is when we take down the announcements of this 50th anniversary operation. I've just been surfing around on QRZ.com, and it looks like a lot of us still have that up.
Yes. And my plan, I did not do it as I intended, but I will probably take mine down this evening, probably first thing in the morning when I get an opportunity, and put something up stating that it's over, and appreciate all the contacts. And, we have QSLs if you're interested. And
Yeah, if you write something, then I'll definitely put that on mine as well.
Okay. Well, I'll try to get that out in the morning.
How about certificates? Anybody want to be a certificate manager?
I have a question for Orville. Are you going to want any help with sending out QSLs, things like that?
I don't think it's going to be a big problem unless 6 weeks from now, all of a sudden, a ship lands in Miami and unloads 1,400 pounds of mail. But I'm not anticipating anything except everything I've got. I sent Roby a breakdown by state and country. And it was Florida, California, and a few New York. But other than the other states were 1, 2, 3 each. It was very amazing.
So the information that Orville sent me, and it may be different now, but he had a total of 105.
Okay,
Yeah.
and what, you have 1,000 cards coming?
Yes.
Okay, because that was, okay. So, because I have a few that I'm going to send to you with stamps to send to people who wouldn't send in a card or a SAISY, but I got the SAISY for them.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing for a few of these guys, like the guy in Idaho, who would just go bananas over at his QSL. We did get a request for a card via internet from an LU, and we took. He was really excited about getting a card, and I took a card that I had drawn up, and I took each of the 4 pages and put them into a JPEG and filled it out for him and sent it to him. And he was very appreciative.
Cool.
And he wanted to know if he could join TDXS.
Do we ever get an application from him?
Oh, we need to respond to him, and I can do that. Tell him that that's the path that we need to go down. That was in my queue to do. I just haven't done it yet.
Hey, Orville, when you loaded our logs into LOTW, I guess you had to enter the state and county and even the grid individually?
You bet. Well, not individually. I had, when I generated the K5DX locations, I have for your particular location, in LOTW, I have your county,
Yeah.
or excuse me, not county, grid, ITU and CQ zones, and
I think you put county in each one of them too, Orville.
Yeah, you do.
yeah,
There was
that's right, state and county.
Orville created a location record in TQSL for each station.
Right.
So he read in your file that you sent, and then uploaded them with that specific location record. So they're in there with your information for the QSOs that you made.
Yeah. Several years ago, I did a long mobile operation, operated from dozens of counties. So then I had to keep separate logs, which is a real pain in the ass. And then I had to put all those locations into TQSL.
And they fixed that now. so that you can have wild card locations, and you can supply the grid or the county, whichever, in your ADIF that you log or that you read in. You have to do them separately, but you only need one wild card location.
Oh, great. Yeah, thanks for telling me that.
It's I think it's documented in the section about how to write interfaces. It's not right forefront, but if you look in the TQSL stuff about how to write a logger or whatever to interface it, it talks about the ADIF tags that you need.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so that's a new feature, and so it's potentially pretty valuable for people that do mobile. Well, just example, just what you talked about. Okay. Anything else?
George, were you?
Arvo, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to ask George, were you in the?
No, I wasn't. I think I might have been out of the country for that.
Okay.
I definitely missed that. There is one story, I guess maybe you guys know this, but Jimmy White did work all counties, I think, during that armadillo run here in Florida.
Right.
Yeah.
His mama says he had the Texas road map laying on the floor beside his station the whole time.
And Dennis rigged up Armadillo Airways to pick him up at the airport in a helicopter and take him to the helipad of his hotel.
No.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Okay, so let's move on here. So the next item is to talk about the Texas QSO party. So Keith, have you got any update for us? He's in there. I see him.
We're doing the final analysis now. I don't have a report. Well, I guess I could share the screen and show you the report I have. Let me pull that up.
Yeah, you should be able to share.
Let's see if I can share. Good. I find it. Everybody see that?
No, not yet.
Try to share screen again.
The Astros just won
game.
The ALCS.
But they beat the Rays?
There we go.
You see it now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, what was the score?
4-3.
Oh, wow. They held on for 4 innings like that. Sorry,
Okay.
Keith, carry on.
Here's the, if you look at these statistics, they're very interesting. They're kind of all over the place, though. Look at the total number of logs, 452. Last year it was 348. So I'm guessing that's primarily due to the coronavirus.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the coronavirus and I made a specific effort to get on and to go as many clubs as I could and talk to them about the Texas QSO party and when it was, and and I don't know how many that generated, but we made an effort this time. We put things on our QRZ page to tell people about it. So hopefully that played a part in that too.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And Mark, I don't know if Mark's on tonight, Mark Tyler, but we, went out and we're primarily a CW rover. And I did do 38 sideband contacts, but it was just like whenever it was convenient. We made a chief effort to get the CW, and Mark is a CW ops advisor, instructor. So he sent out to a lot of his buddies, hey, please work us, and a lot of them did. So a lot of the guys that I work on CWT all the time, they were out there working us. That's pretty cool. And
Do you think it's possible that it was like this year's event with work all the QSO parties like Jim is doing?
It could have been, but I saw a report from the salmon run, which was a week later, that they had set a record number of logs too. So
okay,
apparently log count's way up.
Cool.
So what is NTX, number of NTX? What is that?
Non-Texas. So we had non-Texas single ops, 107 stations. CW only were 137. Phone only was 73, and QRP was 7. That's all out of state. And single operator is the mixed version, 107. So we had.
I'm surprised there are only 7 DX operators.
I don't know. Every year it's kind of iffy. One complaint I had 2 years ago when I changed the date was that it was the same weekend as the worked all Europe, and the German stations didn't like that.
No.
So that could have been part of it. But next year it will change to the third weekend. Already had some flack back from that, but it doesn't matter what date you pick, you're always going to get flack.
Do you know how the number of total logs or QSOs compares to the other major QSO parties like California and Florida?
That's a good point there. We had 37,000 CWs, 12,000 phones. So it'd be interesting to see that. I think I'll take a look at that. Thanks for the suggestions. Now look down here below for the band distribution. By a big shot was the 20 meters had the 61%. I think that's primarily because Texas QSO party is primarily a daytime activity. 40 meters is mostly at night, but it's good during the day, but mostly at night. 80 is definitely at night, so that's why it's low. But look at there, we had some 2 meters and 6 meters. And matter of fact, I got a log today, 4 days past the deadline. But there's this guy out in El Paso said, I apologize that I didn't get the login on time, but my computer crashed on the day of the contest when I got the log generated, and it took me this long to recover it. So I said, okay, so we're going to, and that includes some 1.2 gig contacts.
Wow.
I mean, 1.2, 440, he's got a little bit of everything. It was kind of neat. Any questions?
If you want to see the Florida results, we have a website. It's floridaqsoparty.org. And all the stats are on there, but not 2020 yet.
So how about, do you know last year, how many total QSOs you had or logs or?
No, I don't. I'd have to look at the website. Or if you want to find out current information, you could send a note to K5TO, Danny Street. K5TO, he does all the stats.
I recently worked the California QSO party, and I was surprised to get an email from the sponsor saying, hey, you were in the QSO party. We haven't got your logs yet, which is kind of interesting. I'd never had that before. I only made 100 Qs. In fact, I was going to stop arbitrarily at 100, and then I said, damn, I want to make a couple more. So I think I made 103, but that's the first time I'd ever seen anything like that.
A lot of QSO parties will ping you if you don't send your login.
Yeah.
One other thing I'd like to comment before I unshare was the advent of the FT8 and FT4. And the FT8 logs that came in almost all of them were missing the QTH. And somebody mentioned to me that it's hard to exchange QTH unless you use an FT4. I don't know if that's true or not, but we need to consider that next year, I guess.
So some of the QSO parties have figured out how to use one of the contest templates that exists in WSJTX, like the field day template or something like that, to use so that you can put in some different data, but use the same template to work the QSO parties. That's something we could look at and see if there's a way to do it.
The problem with that is that Texas has way too many counties compared to a lot of the other states.
That's true.
And there aren't that many bits
available.
Right.
So I experimented just a tiny bit with that early on to try to figure out how I could get, you know, the 4-letter abbreviation for Galveston County in there, and I didn't have any luck, but I didn't try very hard either. So it bears some more investigation.
Okay, I'm gonna unshare now. If I can figure out how to do it. I'm not sure how to unshare. How do you...
Okay, so there should be a little green arrow down at the bottom of the page. If you click on that, wait a minute. Let's see.
I think I lost it.
I'll see if I can unshare you. Advanced sharing options.
Wait a minute. That's not it. I think I've lost my. It says meeting control.
I thought it was usually on the top of the screen.
There. Yeah, somebody took care of me there.
That was me.
Good.
Okay, so I guess one of the other things we wanted to talk about a little bit, and this is kind of make sure that we get it in the plans. You know, there was discussion about the transition from NARS to TDXS, and we've done, this is the second one we've done. So we'd like to set up some time so we can talk about that and get, and make sure that we're actually going in the right direction, that we get everything transitioned over. And also talk about planning for 2021. I mean, Keith, you've already made some decisions, and we've had some previous discussion about maybe changing the contest format. So we have, you know, more with the idea of getting more on operators, you know, talking about maybe running it for 24 hours or something like that. So we'd like to get that structured. We don't have to have that discussion tonight, but we'd like to get a structure set up so that we can have those discussions in plenty of time to put any changes that need to be made out before the 2021 contest. So I'd propose I could kind of draw up a schedule for something like that and put it out there and see if we can have some of those conversations.
Yeah, let's try to schedule a time.
Okay.
I do have the overall Florida numbers here for 2019. We had 125,000 QSOs and 1,029 logs.
We got something to aspire to then.
Okay, so is the Florida a 24-hour instead of daytime only?
It's 2 10-hour periods.
Are they
10 hours Saturday, 10 hours Sunday?
Is it mostly daytime?
Well, it ends, yes and no. It ends at 10 o'clock Saturday night and then resumes 8 o'clock Sunday morning. So after about 7 Saturday evening, it's dark.
Okay.
And we purposely don't do 80 meters because we just don't want to have to deal with 80 meter antennas for the mobiles. And we always have a lot of mobiles.
Okay.
And the other thing, well, we get a lot of people complaining we don't do 80 and then we don't do FT8. And those are two I think as long as Danny Street's alive, we'll never do those.
Well, and I think not doing FT8 seems reasonable considering the really major limitation on communicating the required info.
Well, or yeah, I get, but I think some of the state parties do the digital modes, don't they?
Well, there's a few of them that only have like 16 counties, and so they can use the codes like they can map their county IDs into the codes that are for field day, for instance.
Yeah, right.
So, you know, mode A1 is county 1 and so on.
So,
Yeah.
so if we used hexadecimal FF, right? Hey, there's a way. There's a way to do it if you got to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, BAD is a valid hexadecimal code. So no.
Speaking of TQP, I got a card in from this guy who's looking for Fort Bend County. He sent me a USACA card. So I haven't got one of these in a while.
Yep.
Oh, I got a bunch of them.
It just came in. Well, I'm in Fort Bend County. It's not that rare.
Yeah.
So this just came in today.
Yeah, I got a couple for Colorado County, even one from a DK.
And I mean, a lot of us have similar stories. I've had similar things, not this year, but in past years for Galveston County. So those guys are out there.
Yep.
Okay. Can we move on and talk about data? Kim?
Yeah, okay with me. Well, I think most of you were here last meeting, and we talked a little bit about kind of the 50,000 foot view of what do I do about protecting my data.
Kim?
Yes, sir.
I'm just wondering, the slide deck from last month, is that available somewhere?
Probably not for you, but it is for me. I can put it out there. I haven't published it to anybody. I'll send it. Where would we put it, on the website? Where do you want it?
I don't know. I just had one person who was disappointed that they missed last month's presentation, and he was wondering about slide deck or something availability. So,
okay, I'll send it to you, and we can decide from there.
Okay.
So we hit the high level view, and it was primarily to get you thinking about all the stuff you keep on your computer and how we've evolved over the years, and we're really dependent on the computers to do things, and we just don't think about what the failure modes might be where we could potentially lose some really important data. And then the next step after that is, once you recognize what your really important data is, how do you go about backing it up? Roby said there were some questions that had popped up in the last week, so fire away and let's see what we can do. Anybody got a question?
I don't think the questioners are here, so.
Okay. I don't have, Kim, I don't have a question so much as a suggestion for future opportunities for programs, is maybe just specific tools, how to use a specific tool. I mean, you did a good job of talking about why, but maybe, you know, how do you put something out on Google, excuse me, Google Drive, or how do you use, I don't know, various tools that are available. How do you, does Windows back up, you know, the Windows 7 stuff that's been moved forward? How do you recover from that? Or is that recommended against or for, that kind of thing? In other words, smaller focus. You got the big picture, but
well, I'm glad you kind of set me up great, because this is a multi-part topic, and there will probably be 4 or 5 of these 15-minute sessions before I get through everything. But one of them is going to hit exactly on the kind of things you talk about. In fact, I pulled a half a dozen slides together from future presentations. So let me just go ahead and share here. All right, can you see that, or did I need to knock down my?
No, it's good.
Looks good to me.
Okay. The next presentation that I was going to put on is not the one you're getting right now, but this is pieces of it. I wasn't quite ready for it, but we wanted to talk about threats and protection methods, which will get us to things like Google Drive and the differences between replication and backup, which we're going to talk a little bit about now. The first thing, everybody, and I got this from a little bit of feedback, is everybody's afraid of ransomware, and with good reason. Ransomware generally locks all of your files with an encryption and asks you to pay a fine, usually with Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is not traceable. And that's the only way you can get your data back. And then there's even no guarantee that the guy that you send the money to is actually going to send you the decryption key. Things like OneDrive, Google Drive, Rick, you were just mentioning those, and other internet-based storage apps are generally not immune to ransomware, because ransomware has evolved to the point where it can detect network-detached shares and map drives and go out there and clobber all that stuff too. Well, Google Drive in particular is one that works kind of like a network share. So ransomware has evolved now to where it can traverse networks and file shares, and the attack vector seems to change a lot. That is, there are improvements being made all the time, so there's really no guaranteed way to protect against a ransomware attack. So then you have to ask yourself, am I really a target? And I noticed in a recent CERT document I subscribe to the Computer Emergency Response Team out of Homeland Security, and I read their pronouncements every week. And the average fine, if you will, the amount of money that they're asking for has doubled since July of 2019 to nearly $84,000. And I think it probably is higher for companies that have a lot of data and lower for some that may not. But my perspective is, you know, they're probably not after Joe Ham and his log data. But that doesn't mean you don't have to protect it. You still got to protect it. But I think it's pretty low percentage chance that ransomware is going to get in your pocket and lock you down. Now, Roby, didn't you say you knew somebody that had?
Yes, you're looking at him.
Yeah, okay, it was you. Yeah,
actually,
so
it was my wife had a large number of photographs on her computer, and work that when she was working on her MBA, that was all locked up, all encrypted, it's very fortunate that I happen to have a backup of all of that, or most all of that, on another computer that was not connected to the internet. And so it actually happened. It actually happened to her.
Well, there you go. You may not think you have something worth taking, but when one of these operators decides he's going to go out and slam 50,000 emails out, you never know if you're going to be on the list.
Yeah, and we don't really know where it came from. I mean, it just happened, and I've still got the drive here somewhere. There's nothing. I mean, you had the key. I think you could get all the information off of it, but it's locked up, tighter than a drum.
What kind of money were they looking for?
About $500.
Oh, goodness.
Yep. I mean,
how many people? Oh, so go ahead, Roby.
I'm trying to remember back about the time and the value of the Bitcoin at the time, but they did actually ask for Bitcoin.
Yeah, Bitcoin is not traceable, and our Treasury Department and the IRS, of course, are interested in that because the potential is for doing a lot of money laundering that way.
Oh, yeah.
How many of you use OneDrive or Google Drive?
I use
do.
OneDrive.
There's several people saying yeah. I use Google Drive for things but not for backup. So let's go talk about that a little bit. Does anyone understand the difference between backup and replication? I bet George does.
Yeah, I think I use replication. I use a thing called code 24 crash plan.
Yeah, I think this will help us decide the way we ought to point ourselves in thinking about how to save our files. Backup is a process that duplicates files at a given point in time to another device. That's kind of the simple definition. It usually runs on a schedule. It should be configured to back up the data you want to have duplicated. And then, of course, you have to test backups to know they're any good. Replication is a process that detects a file has been changed and replicates the changed version to the external storage device.
Isn't that what the Macintosh time machine does?
I am not familiar with it. Maybe somebody that is could speak on that.
It's some sort of a diff file anyway.
Replication for businesses, and we used to use it with the banks a lot, is a great process if you're not hacked or if you don't have a virus going on. But the software that detects that a file is changed doesn't know the difference between the fact that an application has blown up a database and just a database that's changed. It's going to replicate it just because it's changed. So replication will actually cause your backup on the replicated drive to be infected, as well as the primary database that's online at the time, or the data, whatever. So while replication is good for maintaining a system uptime, for example, we used to use it with VMware hosts so that, and you can imagine any company that's got transaction type data, that could be a retail operation, it could be a gas station, it could be banks, of course, were the ones I dealt with. They're doing transactions all day long. And that replication process was invaluable in that if they had a crash, something that was not a virus or a hacker or something like that, they could pretty much within 60 seconds of the time that the system went down, they could bring up an alternate system that was replicated that had, you might lose a half a dozen transactions and that'd be it, because it had replicated based on the changes. But if that's happens to be a virus or something like that, then all you've done is infected your replication data and it's no good now. And replication runs all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it offers you no protection against hacker infections or ransomware. So I think what we're more interested in is doing backup rather than replication. And I thought this was interesting. This is something I got from the Homeland Security folks. It's a list of the different types of storage here when they were first invented, and then how long they are expected to last. And over here, the capacity is interesting too. I remember thinking that, boy, when CD-ROM came out, that was good stuff. And it is. Optical drives, 25 to 50 years lifespan. But look, they only hold 700 megabyte. Well, now we're talking gigabyte or even terabyte. So we've kind of evolved down to things like USB flash drives or solid state drives, and SD cards having 10+ year lifetime, but huge amounts of storage. So here, Windows 10 backup and restore. Directly to your question, Rick. It was originally a utility as part of Windows 7 and has been upgraded and included in Windows 10. And it will back up all data files in your libraries on the desktop in the default Windows folders. Now, I have not gone to do the research on this to find out exactly which folders it's going to do, but I think we need to know that. Secondly, it can create a system image and we'll talk about it in a second, that you can use to restore Windows if your system goes down. Then this is to the same hardware in the case of Windows 10's systems image. So let's suppose you have a memory module that goes out in your PC and it scrambles your hard disk, and you think you're screwed. If you've got a Windows 10 backup image, if you can verify that your system is back operating normally again, you get the memory replaced, whatever, or the disk drive is crashed and you get a new disk, you can restore this system image and it'll put Windows and all of your apps and everything else back onto that machine and bring it up for you. That's pretty cool. Now, that's a pretty big backup file. System image, if you think about the number of gigabytes of used space on your disk drive, Windows occupies quite a bit. And the last thing that Windows 10 Backup and Restore does, it's kind of neat. You can turn on file history to catalog versions of the same file. And it can then, you can pick and restore from a particular version or date, rather than just having one file to return. So if, let's say you did your backup and restore, you did the backup once a week, and you didn't know it, but the particular file was bad in your last backup, you might have multiple versions. You could go back to one that was good. So this is I think a piece of software we need to look at because everybody's likely to have it, and see if it can do what we need to do in terms of doing offline storage backups. Now Windows, if you read the configuration stuff that's out there on the support document on Windows, it'll tell you that the easiest way to run it is to map a drive to it and just let it rip. Well, yeah, that's all well and good, unless you're trying to protect yourself from malware or ransomware or something that can traverse Windows shares and map drives. In that case, yeah, you can use a map drive, but you have to unmap it as soon as you're done. And if you're like me, occasionally you're going to forget.
Would you go back to the last slide for a minute?
Yeah.
So you say hard disks 5 to 10 years. Is that in continuous use, or is that just sitting on the shelf somewhere?
No, that's, I didn't actually query the lifespan to see how they did this. But in 5 to 10 years, I think that's likely to be normal use of the disk. You know, powered up, powered down, powered up, powered down kind of thing.
Yeah,
I got a whole shelf full of stuff in my closet of backups where I back up to a hard disk and just put it on the shelf.
I expect that that's the life expectancy of the medium, the magnetic medium.
Really?
You can't put a hard drive on the shelf for 5 years and expect it to start when you turn it on the next time.
Ah, okay.
There you go.
Uh-huh.
Plus the interface technology changes. I have at one time had a little kit that I put together to, take drive type A and connect it to the computer, and drive type B and drive type C. Of course, that's a little more stable now than it has been in recent years, but early on it was kind of hard to keep up with the hardware.
Well, yeah, I mean, those of you that had an old IBM PC or PCXT, when they first started putting the big monster 10 megabyte drives in there, they had this really odd controller, if you looked into the technology of it, called a reduced record length controller, RRL. And we've now advanced to the point where we're using a serial interface controllers that far exceed the speeds.
Are you telling me this hard drive is no good anymore?
Yeah, the fact you got it open means it's no good.
It still spins.
Do y'all remember zip drives?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I hated that. Hated that thing.
How many do you need?
And 3.5-inch floppies. You know, I keep one old laptop just so I can access my 3.5-inch floppies.
Do you know that 5 1/4s, they haven't had the BIOSes in the hardware since the late 90s.
Yeah.
Even if you have the drive, the BIOS does not support them.
I remember going to the HAL PC meetings, and
Al PC.
they would have an 18-wheeler back up to the door at the conference, and they would sell floppies in boxes of 100.
Yeah.
I
We
think
had
I still
a-
got some.
We had a word processor machine, a deck machine where I used to work years ago. It had 8-inch floppies.
Yeah, we had an IBM one. Display Writer, I think it was Display Writer,
Mhm.
and big 8-inch floppies.
And then of course there's tape backup too.
This still works. Look.
Trevan tapes, 4mm tapes, all kinds of.
There are, by the way, there are outfits that can or will attempt to recover a failed hard drive's data by taking it, putting it in a clean room, disassembling the platters and putting them in a known working drive and trying to recover them that way. But they're a couple of grand and up to start with. So you got to be bad off before you want to do that.
Yeah.
So I too
guarantee either.
I too have experience with that, not personally, but from work, and it does work. But we didn't get everything back. We got most everything back, but not everything back.
Yep.
And it cost a bundle.
Yep.
The more you have, the more it costs. Well, that's the 3 slides that I grabbed out of my presentation that I thought would be of interest tonight.
Very interesting, Kim.
Yeah. Question about this slide. A system image, is that an image of the entire drive, or are we talking about the Windows system, for instance?
You can, in some of the software that's available, you can define what you want included in the image, but most of them just run the entire Windows environment. So it's everything that's on the platter, and they compress it and put it all in one file and then decompress it when you want to restore the image. And there's one company, and I cannot remember the name of this outfit, but I will look them up because they're interesting. They do an image file that the restore utility, when you take that image file, you can restore it to dissimilar hardware. So it might have been a Dell computer that you've created the image of, and that Dell computer went up in smoke or got run over by a truck or whatever. And now you've got an HP machine over here that you want to load it on. And that software will take that image and install everything that's compatible onto the new system. And it'll tell you what's not. Pretty interesting technology there.
Does anyone know whether cloud storage like Carbonite does any kind of a virus check and so forth as they upload the image to the cloud?
I have not checked in a couple of 3 years, but at one time when I did check, there was no protection at all for Carbonite. Now, as long as your Carbonite routine is not running when you have the exposure to a virus or to ransomware or whatever, then you may not immediately infect what's out there. But if you've got a daily backup that in the middle of the night goes out there and updates your Carbonite file, it's simply going to infect what's out on the internet.
Carbonite seems to update pretty regularly. So,
and I think for continuity of data, that's okay. But I think you also need an offline backup that is not going to be infected by anything, so you can recover your data.
There's 2 kinds of things that I can think of here data-wise. One is the operating system part and the hardware-related drivers and all that kind of stuff. And then the other is your application data. And so those are the next things that you need to talk about, consider somewhere, because you can do a Windows, a recovery drive, they call it a Windows recovery drive. And that'll give you a bootable thumb drive, for instance, with all the drivers for your hardware. But if your particular hardware and cards and all of that blows up and you have to install it on another system, then you really need the data backup part and not an image. over.
Yep. In general, I agree with you. Again, back in my career of dealing with the banks, we had the teller line where all the tellers operate. They would have an image out on the network that would install and boot up every morning as a clean image, which kept them from messing with their computers and so forth.
Right. Well, and the other thing is, in those kinds of situations, you have 100 computers that are identical that you bought from Dell or HP or whatever else.
Yeah, right.
You know, the only way you could do that yourself is buy 2 of every computer and have one sitting in the corner, and then you have all exactly the same devices.
Then in 5 years, the hard drive may not be any good, right?
Right. Right.
But I have actually seen it work where a backup file, an image rather, from a Dell was installed on an HP machine, and the utility that installs the image actually goes out to the internet and picks up drivers when it needs them, and when it fails, it tells you. It was pretty smart.
Yep. But it doesn't come with Windows.
No, this is what comes with Windows right here.
Yeah, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
And I think because it comes with Windows, it bears looking at to say, can we adapt this to use in backing up our data so it can be protected offline? So with that, and unless there's questions on this, I'm going to stop my share and return it to Roby.
No, hang on. Kim, have you ever used a Cronus?
I own a Cronus, yes.
Okay. Have you, I know that they promote the ransomware as one of their chief tools to keep us sane. Have you known anybody who's had to use it?
I do not.
Okay, that's one thing. Rick's got a hard platter. I've got one of those too. Here is a, here we go. Here's a hard drive with a case opened on it.
We can't in general see it because the screen
is it screen? Oh, that's right. I'm not sharing. That's right. Anyway, the biggest problem with PCs is the power supply usually goes out. That's the number one. And then the second one is hard drives go out. So your 5 to 10 years is right on line with most hard drives. Most hard drives go out in about 8 years. So when they start to do the check, yeah, it's time to replace it. And then you've got to use either the Windows 10 backup is okay, but you want to do you want to cut down on the time that it takes. And so if you can do an incremental with Windows 10, like a Cronus can do, then you're gonna not take so long to do your backup, because once you get over 150 gigs, it takes a few minutes. So that's one of the things. One of the things that you didn't talk about when you talked about that replication, our hospital that I used to work for had a downtime limit of 60 minutes. And we didn't have that particular feature on our mainframe systems back 20 years ago when I retired. So now they have it and they use it quite regularly. So the downtime has now been reduced down to a few minutes because of that particular technique that they can use to do a quick backup. And another thing that hospitals are doing, as well as banks, they are completely replicating their entire system so they can be back up, like you say, within minutes. And that's a little expensive, but some of the banks have to do it that way because there's too much money involved in it. So, okay, that's all I want to say.
They got the Federal Reserve on their back too, telling them they can't be down more than so many minutes.
Well, they have to, there used to be the law that they had to be back up either in 3 or 5 days. I don't know if that's changed because of technology, but that's one reason why they have the backup recovery systems around the United States.
Yeah, you're right, Mike. It used to be 3 days, and that's why banks would never be closed 3 consecutive days. They'd be open on a Saturday, closed Sunday, might be a Monday holiday, but they were back open on Tuesday. Yep, you're exactly right.
Okay.
And
what do you archive in? I mean, when you use Acronis, are you doing it to a USB drive and you're taking it off the system after you do it, or what other technique are you using?
I do a couple of things, but what you just described is the one I use the most. I have a 500 gig external USB attached drive that I simply turn it on, run my Acronis backup, then I disconnect the drive in the OS. You got to be sure to do that. You know how you go in through the USB panel and tell it to drop the drive. And then I turn the power supply off and it sits over there disconnected. Even though the cable's connected, it's got no power on it until I do it again.
Okay.
Kim, I do a similar thing, except I got 5 computers that I have to do it with. And I have 2 drives, 2 devices for each one. So I have this week's backup that I do, and then 2 weeks from now I use the other drive, and so on. So I never destroy the current. I never destroy the just prior backup by doing the current one.
I have a little portable drive I do the same thing with. It's a Seagate 500 gig drive, but that's really smart to have 2. And we used to recommend 4 for the banks. They had a rotating set of backup hardware. That
you have you send the current one off site and bring the other ones back. So whatever.
Yeah, we'd only have them bring 1 current set on site. The other 3 were off site. So after they completed backup, they go back to the vault, put that in, pull the next one out, bring it back.
I use Acronis for my home stuff here, and I back up to a dual drive, a RAID drive on the network.
That works.
Is that attached 24/7 to your PCs?
Yeah, because I didn't think about the ransomware and that sort of thing. It was just for reliability. I've had to replace drives when I had a drive failure, but the fact that it's a matching drive or mirroring drive, I was able to recover. So it saved my bacon a few times.
Yeah.
And one of the things that isn't on there is solid state drives. It wasn't on that chart. So that's a whole new non-mechanical.
I wondered if that's what this was.
Well, it's in the same area as that. In other words, the old ones were rotating mechanical and uses the same kind of technology as the flash drives and the SD cards.
Well, I think there's two questions. One is how many read-write cycles can you have versus how long is what's the stability of the media over a long-term time? And I think the SD drives do have a more of a limitation on the number of read-write cycles that they could have, which may be completely different from the amount of years that you could just have the stuff sitting on the shelf.
Right, and that's the point, is that the solid state drives are inexpensive enough now and don't have the mechanical problem to where you can use them for backup and set them on the shelf, and then you have this life expectancy, and you don't have the problem of how many write cycles.
Right.
And the technology and the design of the solid state memory chips that goes into an SSD has improved a lot in the last 5 years, where they used to have relatively low number of cycles you could put on them. That's gone up by a factor of like 20 now, and it continues to improve. So the drives are getting better, by the day. I just bought a 500 gig Hewlett Packard S700 drive for $74, I think it was.
Yeah, and I did the Crucial that was a gig, and it was 115.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So I have put solid state drives in all of my PCs now. The rotary drives are sitting on my workbench looking at me.
Yep.
Yeah, I think this is a 10 megabyte.
Wow.
Hey, I have one of those.
2 platters.
Is that a Seagate ST225?
Shoot, I don't know. I think this came out of an IBM AT or XT.
Can't see it.
It doesn't have any
I mean, there we go.
Yeah. I stopped the share so you can see it a little better.
It doesn't have any marking on it. Oh wait, it is a Seagate. ST225.
225, yeah.
Oh, I recognized it.
Sure is.
This is what's called a head crash.
Oh my goodness.
This
Yeah.
is the good medium, and this is where the head ground into the disc and ground off.
I don't have that problem here, so this one should be good still.
That one's good, yeah.
Yeah.
You might want to put a little Windex on it, take your fingerprints off.
Oh, I just wipe it, you know.
Wipe it on your shirt.
Robbie, that's all I have. This is not, by the way, the definitive part of the presentation. And Mike, I was meant to tell you, I think you must have missed the first half of the presentation.
Yep.
Where we covered a lot of that stuff, exactly what you were saying. So
Okay.
we're in agreement.
This
Okay.
is good. This
That's
is good. Thank
good.
you, Kim. Thank you, Kim.
My
So
pleasure.
we're going to move on here because we're almost done. So we'll just talk about 2021 for a minute. I have gone to the Tracy G Center and made reservations for, or requested reserve meeting times in the same pattern as we had for 2020. That's the even numbered months, February, April, so on and so forth, to have the meeting room at Tracy G reserved for us. The odd numbered months are also, as we had done last year, quote unquote, reserved for dinner meetings. Of course, I realize that given the virus situation, we probably won't be doing that, but the plan was to just go ahead and reserve the times anyway. I will send out the draft 2021 calendar to the TDXS reflector tomorrow, so you guys can see all the dates. And of course, this still needs a lot of work. We have a board meeting coming up here in November, and we will finalize all that sort of stuff and during the board meeting, or as part of the board meeting, and then that'll be published on the TDXS webpage. It's always in the upper left-hand corner. It says meeting calendar, and I'm the guy who updates it, so it's not always real accurate, but it gives you the plan for the year. That was the idea behind it. So that's what we've been doing there. We have several good ideas for programs, but we need more. I noticed that the cars had, I guess it was Stanton, on their Zoom meeting this week. I mean, it would really be good if we had somebody to go out and fish up some of those kinds of things. Would be more interesting, or would give us another facet of programs to help draw people in. I know that's been a problem for us for a while, since we don't have a VP of programs. But you guys think about what you'd like to hear, what you'd like to talk about. We will certainly do whatever we can to get some program for it. Kim has got a small group that do these tech topics like he's done tonight. And we need to work off questions. So if you guys would send your questions to Kim, something you'd like to know more about, then he'll get us together and we'll try to come up with relatively short, concise answers to the questions if possible. So that's another avenue to generate something worthwhile to talk about. And then we had an extensive discussion tonight about the operating event we had, and there was expressed interest for things like that in the future. So that's another, just another seed for us to think about what we can do to keep this lively and interesting. So really would like your guys' feedback on that. And we kind of have a list that gets kicked around of potential future programs, and it kind of dies and we go drag it out again. But I would really like for us to get into a situation where on the meeting calendar, you could look ahead and see what's going to be on the, just for example, the January meeting or the February meeting of next year or something like that. So we would have time to advertise and perhaps to draw more attendance. But that takes organization.
I have a suggestion.
Okay.
Back when I joined, back it was at 2006, I think it was. They at that point they were showing quite a few DXpedition videos. It was sort of a regular feature, and it might be interesting to find out some of the more recent DXpedition videos and just show those as something to present and have discussion on afterwards.
Good idea. Does anybody know where to find those?
I even have some on my hard drive.
Hey, that would be cool.
But 9V1, what was this called? VC, or he made a ton of videos all over the place. So probably, I'm sure there's places to download them.
Okay. Well,
one of the clubs in California has a library of those DXpeditions. I haven't checked in the last probably 10 years what they have available, but I don't remember if they're downloadable or not. But it's oh, hey, what are the two big clubs in California?
TDXS or whatever it's called.
Yeah, it was either that one or the top two.
Okay. Well, we just need somebody to do the investigation, and just like we did with Zoom, to do the investigation and go out and say, hey, I've got one, I've got 3 to choose from, or 1 to choose from, or a bunch to choose from. But hey, when you say pull the trigger, I'm ready to go.
There's some on YouTube and some on Vimeo, whatever the hell that is.
Yeah.
I think I still have a 35 millimeter slide deck of PY1RO's trip to St. Peter and Paul Rocks in 1978.
We'll get out your 35 millimeter projector and we'll sit around in the living room with you.
Another thing that I've seen some of is station tours.
Yes.
You know, just people talking about here's what I have and why, and picture of your antenna and your coax coming into the house and that kind of stuff.
Yep, that would be great. And we talked about that earlier in the year, and we tried a couple of times, but we haven't gotten any takers on that yet. So again, just need somebody to pull the trigger, make it happen.
Rick, is that a 5-inch or an 8-inch?
No, this is a 5 1/4, but that's out of an IBM PC.
Yeah,
5 1/4 IBM real live full height 360K floppy.
Wow.
Ooh, wow.
If you want one, I have a real live IBM PC 5-slot motherboard with the basic interpreter in ROM, and it's got the 2 full-size DIN connectors on the back, one for the keyboard and one for the cassette tape interface.
Did I give you that one?
No.
Okay.
No. And here's the scary thing. They used it. We put a 10 megabyte hard drive in it, and they used it at the elementary school for their library catalog system. I put 10,000 books or whatever the number was, typed them in off of the card catalog, and they used it for a couple of years.
Wow.
It was crazy.
Wow.
It was a commercial program, but a long time ago.
Yep. Okay, and we got one other thing we have to talk about, and that is we still need an officer, at least one officer, and preferably 2 for next year. We need a president, and we need a VP of programs for certain. So we need a volunteer or volunteers to come forward with. So you guys think about that. Next month, November, is election for 2021 officers. So that
Come on,
is
you slackers.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We're thinking about it. John, yeah. Can you
This has been in these positions way too long.
see the smoke?
Yeah.
All the thinking.
Yeah.
People are starting to fade out.
What?
People are starting to fade out.
What's that, Doug? I can't hear you.
What?
Rah, 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 rah.
Check your email, by the way. I sent you that slide deck.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
I think it's called QSB, right? Okay, well, that's all I had. Anybody got anything, any final comments or?
Well, the only comment I've got is Arvo. Arvo, you still there?
IR.
Wake up.
My count is different from the count that you posted. So my count was only 57. Sorry. Something went wrong.
Yeah, he made up a few for you.
Well, I don't know if you counted lines that were in the ADIF file or what, but yeah, I only had 57 queues.
Did you work any dupes?
That's all I sent him, 57 in the ADI file.
Oh well.
Concerning the expedition videos and so forth, go ahead and send me a link, or if you have a lead on some, and I'll see if I can sort of collate which ones we can put up in reasonable length and so forth.
I just went to YouTube, and there's some on YouTube.
Okay, I'll check that. But if you have some other sites like the Northern California or whatever it was,
Okay.
send me that link too, please.
Doug, I have about 12 DVDs of the expeditions, the big ones.
Okay.
DX Engineering sells them.
Of course they do.
Of course they do.
I bought these from the guy that made them, K4UEE.
Yeah.
Okay.
These are the ones you were asking about earlier, Mike.
Is that an 8-inch? That's a 5. Is that an 8-inch?
That's an 8-inch one.
Okay.
You have too much storage room.
No kidding.
I'll go around and show you the picture of. I got 3 MSI 8080s too. I haven't been on in 10 years, but oh well, too much stuff.
Yep.
I thought I'd take 30 seconds to relate something that happened to me last week, just so you guys are on the look for it. I stopped at Bank of America to pull some money out of an account and went inside and used a teller machine inside because you could select the bills you wanted. Got my money, walked outside, got in my truck, and took the envelope I had and stuck it on the visor over my head because I was wearing some athletic shorts that didn't have any pockets. And then I drove 3 blocks down the road to Walgreens to get my wife some cough drops. And when I spent 5 minutes in the store and came back out, passenger side window was then smashed in.
Oh, no.
The only thing missing was that envelope.
Mm-hmm. We're watching you.
They were watching me. I had a 40 caliber Beretta in the door on the driver's side with 2 mags. Didn't touch it. I had my Yaesu 2-way radio was clipped into a cup holder on the passenger side. Didn't bother me.
It's one of the cash.
Don't have to pawn that cash.
Was it? What was the envelope where they could see it from the outside?
No, sir.
Like
couldn't see it.
Stuck into the.
You couldn't see it from the inside.
Well, but I mean, pushed forward far enough to where they could see it through the window.
No, it was back. So it was totally hidden.
They watched him from the bank.
Okay.
Yeah, me and the bank manager got an appointment for tomorrow. I don't expect anything out of it other than to make him aware that that kind of stuff's going on in his bank.
He probably already knows.
And yeah, they probably do and don't give a damn.
That happened with me with hubcaps, wheel covers, and walked right back in and said, "Oh yeah, that happens."
It's your own fault, Kim.
Yeah, I guess so.
If you hadn't gone to the bank, it wouldn't have happened.
I'd like to believe if I hadn't gone to Bank of America, because they have not treated me very fairly.
You know, I remember years ago I was in a meeting with my boss and a customer, and the customer's complaining about this, that, and the other. And after a few minutes of that, my boss said, "Well, it's your own fault." And the customer looked at me and said, "Why?" He says, "Well, if you hadn't given us the order, this would have never happened." And
I'm sure that helped the relationship.
End of discussion.
Hey, Mike.
Yep.
I opened up your file with ADIF master and it shows 59 queues.
Well, I had 57 listed. Might be 59. I think I had 1 or 2 dupes that I took out of there. Maybe the version you got didn't take out or have the dupes in it.
There's no reason to take dupes out.
Okay, here.
Well, one of them wasn't a dupe. It was, I made the queue and it got into the K5DX log because I made the contact with my call. It was an FT8 contact.
We'll have to communicate you for that.
Yeah, as long as you're within 10%. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that queue was HD0DX.
Amen.
And it is a dupe in here, so I am not checking for dupes.
Let it go.
So you just actually made 2 more queues.
You're going to get paid for those extra queues too, you know.
You actually did make the queues, so why not?
Yeah, you get paid double what you get for the others.
Yeah.
It's that old dilly gas.
Orville, how many people made any contacts on 10 besides me?
I don't have a clue.
Oh, man.
That's what it looked like.
Oh, wow.
What'd they hit that with?
I wasn't there to see it.
A big hammer.
It must have been big.
I mean, I didn't know if it might have been inside the car.
No, it's all pushed in.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the stuff. But that tempered glass is tough to get through.
And it had tinting on the inside.
Right.
And that tinting helped hold it together too. You can see the radio here. Didn't bother that. Just blew the glass in. And this pocket you see on the door there, I've got an identical one on the driver's side that had my Beretta in it.
What, were there any fingerprints in it?
Harris County Sheriff's Office was not too interested.
Oh, okay.
They don't.
You're probably only one of 10,000 that happened that day.
And the guy was super nice, and they said burglary of a vehicle you cannot report online. They have to come out. And he took the pictures I'd taken and talked to me about it. And he said, truthfully, he said, you know, cash isn't traceable. He says,
is that covered under your insurance? Is that covered under your car insurance?
The glass coverage was, the loss of the money was not.
Okay.
There's an interesting part you may not know about. Your car insurance will take care of glass breakage or any damage to the car that occurs from a break-in, but anything they steal is covered under your homeowners and subject to that great big deductible.
Right.
And that's State Farm. I will say State Farm was pretty efficient at getting the window fixed and everything, but my deductible's way too high.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, I had 5 queues on 10 meters, all FT8.
Okay. 41.
I think all of the ones I turned in were 10 meters, all 19 of them or something.
Oh, wait, only on 10 meters. Okay. Yeah. I had 16 side bands and 41 FT8s. And I don't think any of the FT8s were 10 meters. They were all 15, 17, and 30.
There was one of them on 80.
Oh yeah, that's true. 80. And I worked Al on CW.
And I work K5RK on every band from 160 through 6,
Wow.
I believe.
So
I've
Larry,
seen them before.
and that's the one that
I was,
Larry sent me the email, and that's so after Alan worked him on those bands, he said, Roby, let's do a couple more. So then I worked Larry on 2 and 440. So we got K5RK on 6 on 160 through 440.
what really shocked me is how many times we can keep going back to the same fishing hole and get new cues, so particularly on FT8, just different times of the day, different bands, just amazing.
There were times with the special call signs that were overseas that I had to send K5DX 73. I couldn't put the /50 on it because of the call sign that Rick talked about, dissimilar calls, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I had to do that at least 3 times.
Okay. Mr. K5RK was worked by at least 4 members. K5DD and N5XZ, W9DX, AJ4F, and N5XZ again. Okay, looking at his
And
QSO.
again and again and again and again.
Yeah. 1720, 17 FT8, 15, 6, 10, 12, 40, 20, 70 centimeters, 2 meters, FM, 80, 80. That's 2 of them by AJ4F. That's a dupe.
Oh my.
Then 160, 60, and 30 meters.
Does this guy have the most QSOs with K5DX, different bands?
I have no idea.
He asked if he was going to get some sort of award for that, and I said maybe honorary TDXS membership, but he didn't even respond to that.
Mm-mm.
Roby, is that Camelback Mountain behind you by chance?
That is Elephant Rock
Elephant Rock, okay.
out in West Texas.
Camelback is in Phoenix.
Now this was I took a trip out to West Texas during the early part of the year, and this is one of the spots that I stopped.
Is that in Presidio County or Brewster County or?
I think this is Presidio, but it's out in that direction. And I haven't been out there enough to really know the territory. So I just know I drove a long ways and didn't see much. So.
Yeah, I stopped around that country, South Alpine, for quite a bit back in the 80s.
Okay, guys, I'm going to go, but you're welcome to stay as long as you'd like. I got a couple of things I got to do, but I'll leave it up, and I'm going to stop recording, and then I will send this.